My husband, 49 male, and I, 46 female, have been together 23 years and grew up in the same city. Our parents knew each other before we really ever met. Everybody from our past really admires him because we came from a working-class neighborhood and he became successful. We have a daughter together who is 13. I am a stay-at-home mom who helps my parents manage their restaurant that my husband and I have a stake in on weekends. Both sides of the family love getting together, so our family basically is our entire extended family. My parents always taught me to be grateful for everything I have in life, so I've never felt comfortable asking for anything. When my husband would come home late and say he was at work, I would feel that I was being overbearing if I asked him what exactly he was doing at work, or why does it have to be so late. I had discovered an affair once after our daughter was born, but he convinced me that I was 20 pounds heavier than I was pre-pregnancy and that he was turned off by my tired nature. Things got better after our daughter was a toddler, and he is a good father to our daughter. Things started going to hell in May. My husband started acting very agitated and would miss many days of work or spend his time in our home office. When I asked what was going on, he said I wouldn't understand. He is a partner at the company he works at, with his name on their signs. Finally, he told me that he was so sorry, but he messed up and had an affair with an employee. It ended badly, and now everybody was putting him under a microscope, and they were conducting an investigation. I was furious naturally and told him I wanted out of this marriage. He cried and said he'd go to counseling. Then, in this past month, he starts getting served by process servers. He refused to tell me what he was getting sued for, and my mother-in-law told me, none of your business. My cousin told him that court records are easily searchable, and she'll find out for me eventually. So he admitted that the employee he had an affair with, and another employee he rejected. I was angry and told my parents that I was filing for divorce. After I told them that, my husband told everybody he was expected to resign soon, and now everybody is saying that it's rather funny that I'm leaving right when the money seems to be trickling to a stop, and that I was going to leave him possibly bankrupt instead of standing by the man who supported me for 23 years. Friends of me have texted me and said that him being supported by a spouse would help make judges more sympathetic towards him. Other friends now have iced me out of everything, and this has affected my daughter. How do I navigate this situation? Everybody is against me, and I'm being seen as a villain for believing two strangers over your daughter's father. My daughter is furious at me and asking why I didn't ask my husband what really happened instead of believing lies. Well, you asked him what happened, and he admitted to having a second affair. Your daughter should bear witness to her mom not taking any more crap from a lying, cheating dude, even if it is her father. Also, I'm sorry you're going through this. My parents divorced when I was 15 because my mom cheated on my dad. It was hard to understand at the time, but eventually I saw how it was the right decision for him and her. He told you he cheated on you because you were too fat while having his baby. Is that not enough said? Wow. People really expected women to have no self-respect and just be patient and accommodating, while men just do horrible things to them. Duck every single person saying you're a gold digger or should forgive him. You need to get out and show your daughter that she shouldn't accept this kind of treatment from a husband, whether or not she agrees. She's your child, not your marriage counselor. Of course she's gonna try to blame the woman instead of seeing her father for the dirtbag he really is. You stuck it out and supported this a-hole for 25 years of unpaid domestic labor. He blamed you having his child as a reason for cheating? What a disgusting piece of garbage. Get out, and I would take him for whatever he's worth in the divorce. Duck that. You deserve compensation for raising his children, taking care of your household, and rolling over for him cheating multiple times. You deserve every bit of alimony, assets from this. He's already disgusting and predatory for sleeping with subordinates. Him being married and having a loving, supporting wife just makes it even worse. Lawyer up and ditch anyone who isn't supportive. Get your daughter counseling to help her through this. Okay, let me start off by saying that I lived in a small town all the way in Europe and English isn't my first language, so please forgive me for my grammar. Okay, let's begin. So me, 31 male, and my brother, 36 male, We are the best of friends with this girl named Mary since I could remember. Mary was my brother's age, and they were closer than ever since the day we were born. Mary was the kindest, most beautiful, generous, outgoing person you would ever meet. Everyone in town loved her. She would give you the best advice, help you move if you needed it, give you food and shelter. She would help the homeless and everything, literally the kindest woman. Mary and my brother, let's call him Ben, fake name, started dating when they were around 17 and were in love like no other. At one point, I was jealous because I loved Mary too, but I got over it after I saw her so happy with Ben. They dated through high school and college and got married after college. Everything was going well, and then it wasn't. Mary's father and mother were really big in the community, so when they passed away from a car accident, everyone was grieving. But Mary took it the hardest, as she was the only child, and those were her parents. She fell into depression, but it gets worse after about a month. Everything gets out. Ben was having an 8-month-long affair, and his mistress was pregnant. This literally took the whole town by surprise. I couldn't even believe it, till I confronted him and asked if it was true. He didn't deny it. Mary was so depressed, my heart ached for Mary. After that got out, everyone hated Ben and his mistress and gave them judgmental stares everywhere they went. I guess Mary couldn't handle the pain, because after not leaving her house for 3 days and not answering her phone, people began to worry and came to her house. She wasn't answering the door, so we kind of busted it open, only to find her body cold, with pills scattered around the floor. I will never, I mean never, forget the sight of her laying unconscious. After that day, everything was a blur. I planned a memorial service for her, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that over half the town showed, and she was loved and will always be remembered. One thing to take note is I'm 6'2" and 210 pounds, and my brother is 5'11" and 180 pounds. Everyone was grieving the loss of Mary, and everyone blamed Ben. So did I. I couldn't even look him in the eye without feeling the urge to K him. So when he had the audacity to come to Mary's funeral service with his pregnant mistress, I lost it. I beat the living crap out of him. I was so angry I couldn't stop. My father and uncle pulled me off of him, and I went off, called him and his mistress every name in the book. And I told him, every time that I see him, I will beat the crap out of you. My whole entire family disowned Ben, except for my mom. About a year after the incident, Ben and his mistress moved because they were treated like garbage by the whole town. No one forgot, and 6 months later, I moved to America. It's been 7 years since the whole incident, and recently, my ex-brother contacted me. I have no idea how he got my number and begged me to reconcile with him because he misses me. My family still hasn't talked with him, so I refused. I still hate him, and the S, with every bone in my body. Next night, I get a call from my mother, calling me selfish and petty for not giving him a second chance. I know I will never forgive him, but please tell me in the comments how the hell I'm selfish. Again, sorry for the grammar. Your mother claims you're selfish because she doesn't actually understand what selfish is. Selfish is what your brother did for his own personal pleasure. Selfish is expecting everyone to forgive you because it's what you want. You're not the selfish one here. Your brother and mother are selfish, and they're too self-absorbed to see it. If I did the math correctly, at 29 years of age, your brother was old enough to know not to cheat on his wife and not to show up at her funeral with his mistress. Your mom is wrong. Your brother is selfish. Your mom is also selfish because she doesn't want to feel the consequences from your brother's crappy selfishness. I'd say you only give him, and your mom, I'd be tempted to cut her off for this, a second chance when Mary comes back to life and says you should. Until then, follow your heart. To preface this, I am in touch with my lawyer and am managing most of the legal aspects of this issue, according to his advice. I am not asking for legal advice here, but I'm posting partly to vent, lay the situation out for myself, and partly for advice on how to manage the interpersonal aspect of the problem. My son, S, died 8 months ago. About a month after being released from extended hospitalization due to the physical ill effects of substance abuse and self-neglect. He had been living with me prior to his hospitalization, then was released and returned to my home. During his time in hospital, tensions were high as he was not able to pursue his addictions. When he came home, I made it clear that he could only stay if he abided by the scheme of recovery set out by the hospital, which included managing his addiction. He failed to do this, so I no longer let him live here. He moved to live with his girlfriend, C, at her parents' house. A few weeks later, he passed away in his sleep from causes relating to the issues which hospitalized him. I live every day with the guilt and regret that when he died, we were on bad terms. I wonder if S would have lived longer had I allowed him to stay. S died intestate, so I am his next of kin. But for various reasons, this situation is still in limbo. Shortly before he died, to help him with his debts, I was able to give him a gift of a six-figure sum of money, which I expect will in all likelihood be returned to me. However, this amount of money is unprecedented for me, and I am not a rich man. His girlfriend, C, and I have never had a good relationship. Since they got together a decade ago, she has basically lived in my house without paying rent, pulling her weight in any way, or even being friendly to me. She enabled his addictions, and when S was in hospital, my daughter, 23 female, found evidence C was unfaithful to him. I feel she was using him for money. He drove himself into debt for her. When I kicked S out, I ceased to be on speaking terms with him or C. When S died, C did not tell me. She rang one of my neighbors and told him to pass the message to me. I will never forgive her for this. We were both able to hold it together for the funeral. I paid for everything, but she was there for every step of the journey. And the funeral involved many things that I would never have chosen, but which I included because she wanted them. S was buried in the family plot, along with his mother, who died last year, and one of his grandparents. This is important. The issue now is that she keeps making demands of me. First, she demanded his CDs. It was very painful, but I sorted through and took one or two that were of special sentimental value to me, and let C have the rest. Then she demanded his TV, game consoles, and more. I began to feel like all she wanted was things, and I admit, I snapped and refused to let her have anything more. Now, her family are writing to me and my lawyer, staking claims for sums of money. I am disgusted with all of them. I see her parents quite regularly as they both work in local, essential, unavoidable businesses, and I have no idea how to treat them. I try to ignore them when they approach me, but I am worried about making things worse. I planned, when S's estate was resolved, to give C an amount of money from the gift I gave S, a five-figure sum around 10 or 15% of the total, since I will need to use a fair proportion for legal and hospital bills. I still intend to do this, but I do not know how to manage it now. If I tell her in advance, do you think it will shut her up or just open the door for more demands? Should I wait till it's resolved? Should I even give her anything? It has also transpired that she hadn't realized that the plot S was entered in was a family plot. She repeatedly rang and texted me and my close friend D, 54 female, who has helped us both with this, demanding why I buried him where she would not be able to join him. Up to 15 or 20 times a day for over a week. As far as I'm concerned, I told her where he was to be buried. She accepted that, and there is no better place for him to rest than with his two favorite relatives. Again though, she has been harassing myself and D and threatening to dig him up, unfortunately not in writing. While I am looking into preventative legal steps, I do not want to prevent her visiting my son, and I am so frightened that she will actually do something awful. She recently stopped, but has begun sending us situation updates, clearly an attempt at establishing a paper trail for legal action. I have minimized contact as far as possible, but am afraid of provoking her further. I am terribly afraid. I just want to grieve my son and try to deal with the guilt and regret I feel for how I have handled everything. I am beside myself and have no idea what else to do. I understand that C2 is grieving, and I agree that it is unfair that after 10 years she has very few rights. But that is not my fault, And she has behaved so badly to S in life and to me and D in the past months that my sympathy has all but vanished. Again, I have sought the advice of a lawyer, but am seeking moral support and any interpersonal advice for dealing with my grief and S's dreadful girlfriend. They were not married, so you do not owe her another single second of your time. Tell her to stop contacting you, or you will be getting a restraining order. I am so sorry for your loss. I am sure that burying a child is one of the most difficult, heart-wrenching things that a person can go through. My heart goes out to you, and I hope you can find peace. For what it's worth, from reading your summary, you sound like a reasonable, thoughtful person who is doing the best that he can under the circumstances. You are not acting maliciously, and you've been more than charitable to the other parties involved. That said, you are dealing with a lot of emotional baggage right now. Please seek a counselor for therapy to work through and digest your feelings of grief, guilt, and sadness. Obviously, there is more to the story that I do not know, but from what you have shared, I believe you acted the right way under the circumstances and should not carry the burden of guilt over your son's death. But I understand that forgiving yourself is easier said than done, and that there is surely far more to the story. That is why it is essential that you find someone who can help you work through that one-on-one. Please do it. At this point, the relationship with C is irreparable, so stop investing your energy into repairing it. She should be an afterthought, at most. Just stop responding to her. All communications should go through your attorney. Again, I know this is easier said than done, but it's for the best. Ask your attorney what your legal options are for seeking a restraining order or some other legal protection from her harassment. As for moving on, I'd focus on your daughter. Note, she may also benefit from therapy under the circumstances. We all have precious little time on this earth, as you've been reminded in the harshest of ways. Use that time you have to cherish your daughter, create memories together, and love each other. You may find a way to forgive yourself by making the most of your relationship with and time with your daughter. Edit. A majority of you are saying I don't owe her money. I am aware of this, and thank you for making that clear. However, I would like to give her a monetary gift nonetheless, despite her behavior, because they were together, and my son loved her for a long time. Had we lived in the next state over, less than 2 hours away, she would be considered his common-law wife and would thus have had rights. It is only by a quirk of geography that our roles aren't reversed. I do not like her, but I think S would want her to be supported. She is grieving too and is in a much worse monetary situation than I am. I am not rich. I couldn't habitually throw around gifts of this size. But I'm not struggling financially. I don't need or want the money. I intend to split what is left of the estate between a relevant charity and my daughter, and these will probably both be greater proportions than what I give C. I do not think I owe it to her, but I think as a gesture of goodwill and in the spirit of fairness and honoring my son's love for her, it would be a good thing to give her some money.